Chapter 16 of the Riddle of the Sands. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Gesine. The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers. Chapter 16. Commander von Bruening. To resume my story in narrative form. I was awakened at 10 o'clock on the 19th, after a long and delicious sleep, by Davies's voice outside, talking his unmistakable German. Looking out in my pyjamas, I saw him on the quay above, in conversation with a man in a long mackintosh coat and a gold-laced navy cap. He had a close-trimmed auburn beard, a keen, handsome face, and an animated manner. It was raining in a raw air. They saw me, and Davies said, "Hallo, Carruthers. Here's Commander von Breuning from the Blitz. That's meiner Freund, Carruthers." Davies was deplorably weak in terminations. The Commander smiled broadly at me, and I inclined an uncombed head, while for a moment the quest was a dream, and I myself felt unutterably squalid and foolish. I ducked down, heard them parting, and Davies came aboard. "We're to meet him at the inn for a talk at 12, he said. His news was that the Blitz's steam cutter had come in on the morning tide, and he had met von Breuning when marketing at the inn. Secondly, the Kormoran had also come in, and was moored close by. It was as clear as possible, therefore, that the latter had watched us, and was in touch with the Blitz, and that both had seized the opportunity of our being cooped up in Bensersiel to take further stock of us. What had passed hitherto? Nothing much. Von Breuning had greeted Davies with cordial surprise, and said he had wondered yesterday if it was the Dulcibella that he had seen anchored behind Langeoog. Davies had explained that we had left the Baltic and were on our way home, taking the shelter of the islands. "Supposing he comes on board and asks to see our log?" I said. "Pull it out," said Davies. "It's rot, this hiding, after all. I say, I rather funk this interview. What are we to say? It's not in my line." We resolved abruptly on an important change of plan, replaced the log and charts in the rack as the first logical step. They contained nothing but bearings, courses, and the bare data of navigation. To Davies they were hard-won secrets of vital import, to be lied for, however hard and distasteful lying was. I was cooler as to their value, but in any case the same thing was now in both our minds. There would be great difficulties in the coming interview if we tried to be too clever and conceal the fact that we had been exploring. We did not know how much von Breuning knew. When had our surveillance by the Kormoran begun? Apparently at Wangeroog, but possibly in the estuaries, where we had not tired a shot at duck. Perhaps he knew even more: Dollmann's treachery, Davies's escape, and our subsequent movements, we could not tell. On the other hand, exploration was known to be a fad of Davies's, and in September he had made no secret of it. It was safer to be consistent now. After breakfast we determined to find out something about the Kormoran, which lay on the mud at the other side of the harbour, and accordingly addressed ourselves to two mighty sailors, whose jerseys bore the legend "Post", and who towered conspicuous among a row of stolid Frisians on the quay, all gazing gravely down at us, as at a curious bit of marine bric-a-brac. The twins, for such they proved to be, were most benignant giants, and asked us aboard the postboat galliot for a chat. It was easy to bring the talk naturally round to the point we wished, and we soon gained some most interesting information, delivered in the broadest Frisian, but intelligible enough. They called the Kormoran a Memmert boat, or wreck-works boat. It seemed that off the western end of Juist, the island lying west of Norderney, there lay the bones of a French war vessel, wrecked ages ago. She carried bullion which has never been recovered, in spite of many efforts. A salvage company was trying for it now, and had works on Memmert. an adjacent sandbank. That is Herr Grimm, the overseer himself, they said, pointing to the bridge above the sluice gates. I call him Grimm because it describes him exactly. A man in pilot jacket and peaked cap was leaning over the parapet. "What's he doing here?" I asked. They answered that he was often up and down the coast, work on the wreck being impossible in rough weather. They supposed he was bringing cargo in his galliot from Wilhelmshaven, or the company's plant and stores coming from that port. He was a local man from Aurich, an ex-tug skipper. We discussed this information while walking out over the sands to see the channel at low water. "Did you hear anything about this in September?" I asked. "Not a word. I didn't go to Juist. I would have, probably, if I hadn't met Dollmann." What in the world did he mean? How did it affect our plans? "Look at his boots if we pass him," was all Davies had to suggest. The channel was now a ditch, with a trickle in it, running north by east, roughly, and edged by a dyke of withies for the first quarter of a mile. It was still blowing fresh from the northeast, and we saw that exit was impossible in such a wind. So back to the village, a paltry, bleak little place. We passed friend Grimm on the bridge, a dark, clean-shaved, saturnine man, wearing shoes. Approaching the inn. "We haven't settled quite enough, have we?" said Davies. "What about our future plans?" "Heaven knows we haven't," I said, "but I don't see how we can. We must see how things go. It's past 12, and it won't do to be late." "Well, I'll leave it to you." "All right, I'll do my best. All you've got to do is be yourself and tell one lie, if need be, about the trick Dollmann played you." The next scene. Von Brüning, Davies, and I sitting over coffee and Kümmel at a table in a dingy inn parlour overlooking the harbour and the sea, Davies with a full box of matches on the table before him. The Commander gave us a hearty welcome, and I am bound to say I liked him at once, as Davies had done, but I feared him too, for he had honest eyes, but abominably clever ones. I had impressed on Davies to talk and question as freely and naturally as though nothing uncommon had happened since he last saw von Brüning on the deck of the Medusa. He must ask about Dollmann, the mutual friend, at the outset, and if questioned about that voyage in his company to the Elbe, must lie like a trooper as to the danger he had been in. This was the one clear and essential necessity, where much was difficult. Davies did his duty with precipitation, and blushed when he put his question in a way that horrified me, till I remembered that his embarrassment was due, and would be ascribed, to another cause. "Herr Dollmann is away still, I think," said von Brüning. So Davies had been right at Brunsbüttel. "Were you thinking of looking him up again?" he added. "Yes," said Davies, shortly. "Well, I'm sure he's away, but his yacht is back, I believe, and Fräulein Dollmann, I suppose." "Hm," said Davies. "She's a very fine boat, that." Our host smiled, gazing thoughtfully at Davies, who was miserable. I saw a chance and took it mercilessly. "We can call on Fräulein Dollmann, at least, Davies," I said, with a meaning smile at von Brüning. "Hm," said Davies. "Will he be back soon, do you think?" The Commander had begun to light a cigar, and took his time in answering. "Probably," he said, after some puffing. "He's never away very long. But you've seen them later than I have. Didn't you sail the Elbe together the day after I saw you last?" "Oh, part of the way," said Davies, with great negligence. "I haven't seen him since. He got there first, outsailed me." "Gave you the slip, in fact." "Of course he beat me. I was close reefed. Besides——" "Oh, I remember, there was a heavy blow, a devil of a heavy blow. I thought of you that day. How did you manage?" "Oh, it was a fair wind; it wasn't far, you see." "Große Gott! In that?" He nodded towards the window.